Hello, I'm Orkhan Amashov. Welcome to Context. Both Azerbaijani and Armenian officials have now confirmed that the two countries in question had agreed on the full text of a peace agreement to end nearly 4 decades of conflict. At first glance, it may appear that we stand at the precipice of history, for after decades of strife and 3 years of peace treaty negotiations, which technically started in March 2022, Azerbaijan and Armenia have now moved beyond rhetoric to action, finalizing a draft peace treaty that could redefine the South Caucasus. In some ways, we do indeed stand at the precipice of history, as a peace agreement should also be a strategic accord that aims to close a chapter on one of the world's most protracted conflicts. Yet the relative complexity of the situation should not be underestimated. Although the full text of the Azerbaijani-Armenian agreement is complete, its actual signing and ratification will depend on Armenia removing what is known as a constitutionally embedded territorial claim against Azerbaijan's Karabakh region by means of referendum, and the dissolution of the former OSCE Minsk Group by means of Baku and Yerevan jointly applying to the OSCE. One of the two previously unresolved articles of the peace treaty relates to non-deployment of third-party forces along the interstate border. With the mandate of the EU civilian mission deployed on the Armenian side of the conditional border having been recently extended until February 2027, the question is, should the side sign a deal first or wait until after the termination of its mandate? Those who are incredibly enthusiastic and emotional about this peace process would probably say that it's a test of political will, strategic foresight, and the ability to turn historical animosity into shared future. Those who are privy to the ins and outs of the whole range of circumstances enveloping the Azerbaijani-Armenian dynamics would probably be inclined to say that the finalization of the work on the full text of the peace agreement is of course welcome, but nothing is certain until other requirements are fulfilled. Today I'm delighted to be joined by my guest to discuss a very interesting and dramatically important and evolving situation involving Azerbaijan-Armenian dynamics. Ambassador Aydin Nurhan, former Turkish diplomat, joining from Istanbul, Turkey. Ambassador James Sharp, a former British diplomat and former UK ambassador to Azerbaijan, joining from London, United Kingdom. And Mohammad Mohammadov, research fellow at Topçubaşov Center, joining us from Baku, Azerbaijan. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Ambassador Nurhan, Ambassador Sharp, I hope you wouldn't mind if I pose my first question to Mohammad about this situation. So, well, in many ways, I suppose both sides, Azerbaijan and Armenia, are now effectively saying that negotiation process on the text of the peace agreement has been concluded. A statement issued by Armenia's foreign minister says that the peace agreement is ready for signing. And Azerbaijan's foreign minister, Ceyhun Bayramov, earlier stated that Azerbaijan's next expectation from Armenia is constitutional amendments. Mohammad, what's your reading of the situation?
Well, I have to say that Azerbaijan looks at the situation more in the long term. And yeah, it's not only about a peace agreement, but how any agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan can solve the key problems in the 3 decades old conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So that's why here for Azerbaijan, the main problem lies in the future. So Azerbaijan's rationale is that what kind of a system should be established between Armenia and Azerbaijan that in the future, in case of changes to the regional balance of power, specifically between Armenia and Azerbaijan, there is no any threat that emanates from either Armenian domestic politics, that's the return of revanchists to power, or in the external arena that some external powers support Armenia's new expansionist policies toward Azerbaijan. So that's why I think that if Armenia looks at the current negotiations and conclusion of peace agreement with Azerbaijan from today's point of view, and Azerbaijan looks at in a more as part of a longer term process.
Thank you, Mohammad. Ambassador Sharp, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan earlier said that Armenia is ready to begin discussions on the timing and place of signing of an agreement. And there are those who believe that this may be an attempt to increase pressure on Baku to sign the deal quickly without resolving those outstanding issues related to the Armenian constitution and the OSCE Minsk Group. What is your reflection on this moment?
Well, first of all, I'd just say, it's great to be on this program at what is actually a very historic time. Not only because of the fact that the two sides have actually reached agreement on the actual peace deal, but also because they did it by themselves, bilaterally, without any outside mediation. So I think these are both fantastic achievements, and really we ought to applaud that. But it's clear, as I think others have said, that this is just one step on what is still quite a long road. I think someone commented that a peace deal isn't the same as peace, and that then requires not only some of the resolution of some of the issues, the intergovernmental issues that have been identified, but also reconciliation between the peoples of the two countries as well. But certainly, and on your point about the timing of signature, then I think that most Western countries will be urging Azerbaijan and Armenia to sign as soon as possible, if you like, to seize the moment, carpe diem, as we say in Latin. And that will be quite a lot of pressure on Azerbaijan to sign as soon as possible. But as you've identified, there are these other issues still to be resolved over the Armenian constitution and the future of the OSCE Minsk group. So I think that needs to be worked through about how you actually reconcile the desire for a very quick signature, just to capture it, if you like, to make sure things don't get worse again. Plus, along with how do you then bring in those longer term elements? I think it's possible through sort of side agreements or through unilateral declarations and things like that. So you've got several stages. You've got signature, ratification, and entry into force of the peace agreement. So, as with Good Friday Agreement, which brought peace to Northern Ireland in 1998, you can have a sequencing of events which allows you to sign something and then actually wait for a few other conditions to be met before it enters into force. So I think that needs to be worked through between the negotiators.
Indeed. Ambassador Nurhan, we understand that Turkey is an important player. It's Azerbaijan's ally. And also the Turkish-Armenian normalization is very important for the current government in Yerevan. And this normalization process is inextricably connected with the Azerbaijani-Armenian peace process. So from the Turkish perspective, what are the key sensibilities there?
The first sensibility is Atatürk's words: peace at home, peace in the world. This is the exact time those words should be taken into consideration. We want peace in the Caucasus, we want peace in the Middle East, we want peace in the Balkans and in the greater world. Why? As the British know very well, if you want a free world, free commerce, you need peace and stability. So we are very sincere in peace and stability, especially in the Caucasus. That's number one. The second, the very important point is, although I was Consul General in Nakhchivan in 1998-2000 and said that when I die, I would like to be buried in Nakhchivan. I am more pro-Azerbaijan than many people. Still yet, I may think differently than our Azeri brothers, and that is this: we must help Pashinyan. There are opposition against him in the diaspora, especially, and in his country. Now, he says we are very near to peace. He says we are ready to sign. He says our diplomats are in constant cooperation. So what we need is, first, when he agrees to some of the terms, we should not say, hey, he did what we wanted. We shouldn't say that. It's against him. His people would turn against him. So we should be very grave, very serious when he accepts some of the terms. It's, for instance, with Turkey, he says historical events are not the priority. These are serious points he made and he makes. He came to Turkey when Erdogan was elected to congratulate him to his ceremony. So my personal view is that we should help Pashinyan. This is number one. Number two, yes, he needs time for his constitution, okay?
Yes.
For some other details, perhaps. We should not force him.
Okay.
He says our relations with Turkey may take 3-6 months up to a year. No. We should open the Turkish-Armenian border. We do nothing without Azerbaijan consent. So we should do it together, of course. Azerbaijan should agree to it. We should convince Azerbaijan that we are going to open Turkish-Armenian border.
That's number
This
two.
is very important. This is an encouragement to Pashinyan.
Yeah.
And then when we open commerce, Turkish Airlines, and trade at the borders opening, I am sure Armenia economy will flourish. Within 3 years, I think, they may flourish. And the three countries, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Armenia, would unite. I'm very hopeful, I'm very positive for this. And then all the Armenians are going to be opened to the civilized Western world. And then who will win from this peace? Azerbaijan, Turkey, Georgia, and Russia does not want problems anymore at its borders. So they are also positive, as I understand, to my understanding. So we are going to be fine, but we don't have time to lose. As Pashinyan said, soon, hopefully, yes, it should be very soon.
Indeed.
To encourage him, at least we should open the borders until they do their constitutional preps, etc.
Ambassador Nuran, thank
but
you.
that shouldn't take too long,
Yes.
because they already accepted for that
Yeah.
the two remaining items. Yes.
But thank you.
So that's what I would say for the time being.
Thank you very much. So Ambassador Sharp described it as a historic moment. He described it as also a moment of historic significance. He also particularly mentioned that we shouldn't exacerbate Pashinyan's circumstances. We heard quite a lot about Azerbaijan being in need of helping Pashinyan and also taking actions that would enable Pashinyan to prove to his local audience that peace deal with Azerbaijan will indeed be fundamentally positive development for Armenia. Mehmet, it's a very, very interesting debate about Turkish-Armenian normalization and Azerbaijani-Armenian peace process. Although Armenians do tend to view the subject as separate, we know that these two processes are interlinked, of course. But the constitutional challenge needs to be surmounted. We all understand it. I discussed the subject with Ambassador Sharp last summer. I remember we were discussing it in the context of the case of Republic of Ireland and so forth, Northern Ireland, the case involving Northern Ireland. Bearing in mind that this will require a referendum, and that referendum will take place in late 2026. It will not take place in 2025. Bearing in mind that EU civilian mission will remain stationed along the conditional border on the Armenian side until February 2027, would it be fair to say that the period starting from now and until early 2027 will be actually the preparation for the signing? Would that be fair assessment, or what is your evaluation of this stage spell?
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, it will depend on the side's commitment to the process. And at the same time, as Ambassador brought Pashinyan's individuality, but there are many things that are not dependent on Pashinyan's moves. There are some structural constraints that Azerbaijan and Armenia faces. And especially now we have Trump and United States-Russia normalization, and there's all the return of sphere of influence rhetoric, and the dividing the world up to like Yalta-style system, so that the structural constraints on Armenia and Azerbaijan will increase, and we don't know what kind of measures it will take with that regard, because in 2018 we had similar situation. Yeah, when Pashinyan came to power freshly, yeah, there were some promises, but then we saw that many times they were breached. Yeah, there were some understandings that in some 2 years certain kinds of moves will be taken, but they were not materialized. So it's not only about individual leaders, but structural constraints. So yes, this agreement, preliminary draft agreement, is very significant leap forward, but there are many challenges that the sides, especially Armenia, will not use it to show the let's say opposing sides as unconstructive, yeah, in its engagement with the process. Yeah, and for example, the argument from Yerevan can be that, okay, we have this agreement, then why we are not moving forward? Then Azerbaijan will keep saying that, okay, we have some long-term concerns, so you should take appropriate measures, and then the process will prolong, and all will depend on how this, let's say, kind of weaponization of certain parts of this process will damage the already fragile trust issues between the two countries. Again, I'm not even talking about the external involvement. Yeah, we already mentioned that what's happening right now in Ukraine is one of the significant factors affecting both Armenian and Azerbaijani behavior right now, and probably any meaningful change in that front will again affect the behavior of these two countries. I mean, their calculations.
Indeed. Ambassador Sharp, we understand that we could actually sign something, and that will be important, that will be celebrated, but the factors on the ground may not change as a result of signing it. Mohammed's colleague, Ahmad Alili, he's the director of the Caucasus Policy Analysis Center, once described this whole landscape of Azerbaijan-Armenian dynamics on the basis of 2+2+2 configuration. So the first two involved related to elements ingrained in the text of the deal, third-party non-deployment of the third-party forces, and also mutual withdrawal of legal claims. It looks like that section is over, done, because we have agreed on the full text. So second two involved OSCE Minsk Group and also the Armenian constitution issue. These are not inside the deal, but they need to be resolved in order for a deal to be signed. And the third section of those two elements involved opening of communications. What do you expect from the opening of communications discussions? Because we understand it's not part of the deal, but if there is a progress there, and measurable progress, the signing of the deal could also be sort of accelerated.
Yes, I mean, first of all, let me just say that I agree with your Turkish guest that it would be very, very positive if the Turkish-Armenian border crossing was opened as a sign of progress, if you like. I suspect that the full opening of communications between Turkey and Armenia will still rest upon resolution of the wider issues, including the Zangezur corridor and perhaps a final ratification and entry into force of an Azerbaijan-Armenia peace agreement. We're not entirely sure there, but I do think that it's important to look ahead to Armenian parliamentary elections in, I think, 2026. Yeah. So, there was a lot of thought, a lot of talk in Armenia, of course, and the West, that Pashinyan has made major concessions. And I see some unnamed Western diplomat was quoted as saying, these two last remaining clauses are major Armenian concessions, which I'm not entirely sure they are. I mean, I would have thought the dropping of mutual legal claims in international courts was very much in both sides' interest, not just Azerbaijan's. And of course, we don't know the actual details of the withdrawal of foreign forces, if you like, from the territory yet. But nevertheless, there's a bit of a sense that Armenia are making the concessions, and a bit of a sense outside Azerbaijan, I should say, that Armenia is making the concessions and need to be rewarded, if you like. But I don't agree with that. But I do think that it's important to bear in mind the parliamentary elections, because the risk is that, as others have noted, that this could all fall apart if things go wrong in any of the countries or in the wider region. So I do very much hope that some method can be found to sign fairly soon, while including incorporating into that agreement, if you like, some form of words which foresees resolution of the remaining issues. And you mentioned those two ones that Azerbaijani government have talked about, but then also, as you've said, there's the Zangezur corridor. From Armenian perspective, of course, and a Western perspective, there's all of the Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh still on trial in Baku. I think that's something that will have to be resolved. And then border delimitation, which is happily ongoing, and both sides profess themselves satisfied with the progress there. So hopefully that will whir away in the background, if you like, and not become an impediment. But that over longer term will also have to be resolved as well. So a whole wide range of issues. I do think it's worth thinking about the timelines as Armenia approaches its next elections. That's a really important consideration, I think, that Baku needs to bear in mind.
Indeed. Yes, and delimitation demarcation is another realm wherein the parties need to progress. But that there's absolutely no need to finalize the whole delimitation demarcation process in order to sign the deal. I think one of the suggestions made by some experts was that sides may initial the document, so express their agreement with the provisions without actually fully signing it, and then having a condition attached to it in terms of a framework, effectively saying that at the time of by the time of this event happening, that event is a removal of the preamble of the Armenian constitution, it will be legally enforceable. So something along those lines, inserting some kind of time frame. I think that similar arrangement was considered in the case of Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Is that the case, Ambassador?
It was. I mean, the actual agreement itself envisaged changes that would have to take place in the Republic of Ireland constitution, and so, as I say, signature, ratification, entry into force were all foreseen as part of that process. That would be ideal, but ultimately, if it's one-sided and Azerbaijan declares that it will only come into force when this happens, A, B, and C happen, then that would be another option. There are various options. I just think that the negotiators just need to work through those.
Ambassador Orkhan, I would like to hear your reflections on the Zangezur corridor. You earlier mentioned that you spent a considerable part of your diplomatic career in Nakhchivan as well. That territory of Azerbaijan is very close to your heart. Zangezur corridor is about overland passage connecting Azerbaijan's mainland with Nakhchivan exclave, and it is an important element of the opening of communications business, which in the grand scheme of things involve not just that particular corridor, but also Turkish-Armenian normalization and opening of borders as well. What are your thoughts on that, and do you think that could be expedited in one way or other?
A new concept. Change your concept. Armenia itself will be the Zangezur corridor itself. When we open all the borders, all the trade, Armenia itself will be ready for pipelines, for highways. The most important thing is this, for me personally. The most important thing is protecting Armenia from itself. Why? I can't get my voice back.
No, I can
Hello?
hear you. I can hear you, Ambassador.
Okay, then. Yeah, good. Okay. Now, the most important thing is Armenia is one of the world's most troubled countries, economically, politically, otherwise. Now, Turkey historically had no problem with Armenians for 1,000 years. We can come together again. Azerbaijan, Turkey, Georgia, Russia and Iran, the table of six. These are possible things. But to start with, what I would say is protect Armenia from itself. Open it to the world, to the Western world. Turkey will be its bridge. Turkey will be its partner. We will be economic partners. Azerbaijan will be its friend again. They will be good, and then we will work together for the future. This diplomacy is a process. Diplomacy is a process, historical process. You don't stop diplomacy with one agreement or with one single thing. No, we can do certain things. We can do encouragements. We can do soft starts, and then proceed on. So,
yeah.
Where to start? That is my question.
Ambassador, so what you said is
My
that...
question is
yeah, please.
to start with the borders, then diplomatic, perhaps third secretaries, second secretaries, whatever. So that would be the procedure, slow process going. Now you can say, but they must do the border thing, demarcations, or they must do this, do that. Yes, we can put them on a calendar.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ambassador, so effectively what you said is that Azerbaijan and Turkey collectively should protect Armenia from itself. Azerbaijan should not exacerbate the circumstances of Nikol Pashinyan. And we should first actually proceed with Turkish-Armenian border opening, and then Zangezur will happen automatically. Mohammed, I think you have to reflect on this. I think that what President Aliyev said recently, that without the opening of Zangezur corridor, the whole opening of communications will not happen, because as we understand, on the basis of the Crossroads of Peace initiative proposed by Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, that initiative entails first opening of Turkish-Armenian border and some zigzag type of roads involving Azerbaijan and Armenia, and Zangezur comes at a later stage. In a very concise way, literally in 34 seconds, could you reflect what you think about it, and then I will finalize a whole program.
Okay, very shortly, Crossroads of Peace project is, by Crossroads of Peace project, Armenia seems to be trying to have its cake and eat it too, very simply, because, Azerbaijan and Turkey are very clear, especially Azerbaijan, that Armenia is going out of isolation should have price. Yeah, Armenia's territorial claims against Azerbaijan and 30 years of occupation. All after that, we cannot just say that, okay, borders are opened and everything is forgotten. No. So Azerbaijan should get what it wants before Armenia is having its access to Turkey and Azerbaijan and, let's say, outside world restored. So that's why I think, especially after the war, as the opening of communication lines issue is highly securitized, it's very unlikely in the short term, but it will all depend on the concept of trust.
Indeed.
So that's why I do believe that these issues, we have a border delimitation agreement in May last year. Now we have this draft peace agreement. I do believe that all of this will have some sort of spillover effect on the positive developments and the opening of the Zangezur corridor. But I'm sure that Azerbaijan's claim is very... Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you very much indeed for your very short reply. I'm most grateful to Ambassador Sharp, Ambassador Orkhan and Mohammed. Thank you very much indeed for your time. So grateful to you for your answers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. As Armenia and Azerbaijan edge closer to signing this historic treaty, with all the outstanding issues in mind, of course, the region stands at a crossroads. But one thing is absolutely clear and certain. We are indeed in the presence of great developments in the South Caucasus, and a peace deal to be signed between Azerbaijan and Armenia will define not just the fates of these two countries, but the wider South Caucasus. Change is indeed in the offing, with its first contours appearing more than palpable and perceptible. I'm Orkhan Amashov. You have been watching Context.